Shalom, shalom, shalom. Most High in Christ bless. Welcome, good morning to History in the AM. Give me a quick thumbs up if you can see and hear me. We're going to get started. We are going to get started. All praises to the Most High. Hey, y'all keep prayers up for Israel. Y'all keep prayers up for those of our brothers and sisters that are in the islands, that have been in the way of that storm. All right, the hurricane that came through, it already went through some of the islands, headed towards Jamaica. Y'all send up prayers for them. And y'all send up prayers for the saints, the many saints that need our prayers. Okay, in Israel right now, y'all make sure that y'all are saying, y'all keeping their prayers 3 times a day for the saints. All right, make sure we doing that. We're gonna go ahead and get started. Part 2, the downfall of Ephraim. Go back and cover a little bit of stuff. I want to go back in a little bit more detail. Okay. So, without any further ado, we're going to go back to Amos chapter 4. All right. Amos chapter 4. We're going to start at verse 1. Amos chapter 4 and verse 1. All right. It says, "Hear this word, ye kine of Bashan, that are in the mountains, that are in the mountain of Samaria, which oppress the poor, which crush the needy, which say to their masters, bring, let us drink." Okay. So hear this word, ye kine of Bashan. What is kine? K-I-N-E. K-I-N-E. What is that? That is a cow. All right. So you got bulls, steers, you got cattle, you got cows, all right? So a kine is a cow, all right? So I want to touch that just for a second. Let's go to the book of Numbers. Ye kine of Bashan. I want to deal with Bashan a little bit. I want to deal with the land, okay? Because it's going into idolatry. Okay, but I want to deal with the land, all right? Because remember, the land was promised to us by God through our forefather Abraham, all right? So, let's go to the book of Numbers, all right? Let's go to the book of Numbers, chapter 32. Numbers chapter 32, because this is History in the AM. We'll make sure that we being thorough about our history. All right. Numbers chapter 32, verse 1. "Now the children of Reuben and the children of Gad had very great multitude of cattle." So they had a lot of cattle. Okay. It said a very great multitude of cattle. "And when they saw the land of Jazer and the land of Gilead, that, behold, the place was a place for cattle." We're going to get why in just a minute. All right. So they saw the land. They said it is a place for cattle. All right. Because we took it in war. All right. So let's get from there. Let's go to the book. Matter of fact, I was rewriting my notes. Let's go to chapter 21. We're going to go through a little bit of history on us getting that land. All right, we're going to come right back to chapter 32. Let's jump over to chapter 21, and we're going to read verses 33 through 35. Numbers 21:33. All right, and it says, "And they turned and went up by the way of Bashan, And Og, the king of Bashan, went out against them, he and all his people, to the battle at Edrei. And the Lord said unto Moses, fear him not, for I have delivered him into thine hand, and all his people, and his land. Thou shalt do to him as thou didst to Sihon, king of the Amorites, which dwelled at Heshbon. So they smote him and his sons and all his people, until there was none left him alive, and they possessed his land. Okay. Now remember, let's jump back to Deuteronomy right quick. Some of this we've read numerous times. I'm gonna touch on it, but we're not gonna go through all of this in great detail. Let's go to we're gonna go to Deuteronomy chapter 20. All right. So remember, it said they smote him and his sons and all his people until there was none left him alive, and they possessed his land. Deuteronomy chapter 20, verse 16. But the cities of these people, which the Lord thy God doth give thee for an inheritance, thou shalt save alive nothing that breatheth. But thou shalt utterly destroy them, namely the Hittites and the Amorites, the Canaanites, and the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites, as the Lord thy God hath commanded thee. All right. Why? Because they would teach us abominations. We read that in Psalms 106, okay, and other places. All right. Let's go back. All right. From there, let's go back to Numbers 32. Numbers chapter 32. We're going to do a little bit of reading now. Numbers chapter 32. I'm going to start at verse 1. Let me make sure this is this is what I want right here. Okay. Numbers chapter 32 verse 1 again. Now the children of Reuben and the children of Gad had very great multitude of cattle, and when they saw the land of Jazer and the land of Gilead, that, behold, the place was a place for cattle. The children of Gad and the children of Reuben came and spake unto Moses and to Eleazar the priest, and unto the princes of the congregation, saying, Ataroth and Dibon, and Jazer, and Nimrah, and Heshbon, and Elealah, and Sheba, and Nebo, and beyond, even the country which the Lord smote before the congregation of Israel, is a land for cattle, and thy servants have cattle. It's a land for cattle, and thy servants have cattle. Verse 5. Wherefore said they, if we have found grace in thy sight, let this land be given unto thy servants for possession, and bring us not over Jordan. So this is before we crossed over. This is the east side, or the rising of the sun, the east side. Let me quickly get a map. I think I got a map that'll help. Okay, let's see. Okay, so you can see you've got Gad, which is like the light green, Reuben, which is a light yellow beneath it, and then a darker yellow above Gad, which is Manasseh. These are on the east side. At the very top, you see Arameans. All right, is everybody with me? I want to make sure that y'all can see on the map what I'm talking about right there. All right, so now this conversation is going on that side, on the east side. You see Bashan, that's Bashan. All right, let me go back. Verse 5 again. Wherefore said they, if we have found grace in thy sight, let this land be given unto thy servants for possession, and bring us not over Jordan. And Moses said unto the children of Gad and to the children of Reuben, shall your brethren go to war? And shall ye sit here? And wherefore discourage ye the heart of the children of Israel from going over into the land which the Lord hath given them? Thus did your fathers, when I sent them from Kadesh Barnea to see the land. Okay? So look what Moses is saying. Should you stay here while your brethren go to fight? Because that's what happened. That what the history that he's making reference to in verse 7, verse 8, is when we read back in Numbers 13. We've read that before, when Moses chose out spies, heads of each of the tribes, okay? The heads of the families out of each of the tribes to spy out the land. And they came back and gave it a bad report. Why? Because fear. All right? That's why only Caleb, because the Lord said Caleb had a different spirit. He didn't fear the men. And Joshua were the only two that came up out of Egypt and made it into the promised land. All right? So let's read on. Verse 9. For when they went up unto the valley of Eshcol, they saw the land and discouraged the heart of the children of Israel, that they should not go into the land which the Lord had given them. And the Lord's anger was kindled the same time, and he sware, saying, surely none of the men that came up out of Egypt from 20 years old and upward shall see the land which I swear unto Abraham, unto Isaac, and unto Jacob, because they have not wholly followed me, save Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, the Kenizzite, and Joshua, the son of Nun, for they have wholly followed the Lord. And the Lord's anger was kindled against Israel, and he made them wander in the wilderness 40 years, until all the generation that had done evil in the sight of the Lord was consumed. What was the evil? Non-belief or unbelief. The evil was unbelief. Hold on a second. Let me go to let's see. Let's go to the book of Hebrews, chapter 3 and verse 15. While it is said, today, if you will hear his voice, harden not your hearts as in the provocation. For some, when they had heard, did provoke, howbeit not all that came out of Egypt by Moses, but with whom was he grieved 40 years? Was it not with them that had sinned, whose carcasses fell in the wilderness? All right. So to them who sinned, whose carcasses fell in the wilderness. Let's go back. Numbers 32 and 14. And behold, ye are risen up in your father's stead, an increase of sinful men, to augment yet the fierce anger of the Lord toward Israel. For if ye turn away from after him, he will yet again leave them in the wilderness, and ye shall destroy all his people. And they came near unto him and said, we will build sheepfolds here for our cattle, and cities for our little ones. But we ourselves will go ready armed before the children of Israel, until we have brought them unto their place, and our little ones shall dwell in the fenced cities because of the inhabitants of the land. We will not return unto our houses until the children of Israel have inherited every man his inheritance. For we will not inherit with them on yonder side Jordan or forward, because our inheritance is fallen to us on this side Jordan eastward. So that's showing you right there. Let me flip it back right quick. That's showing you right there where it's talking about. They said our inheritance is on the east side of Jordan. Verse 20. And Moses said unto them, if you will do this thing, if you will go armed before the Lord to war, and will go, all of you, armed over Jordan before the Lord until he hath driven out his enemies from before him, and the land be subdued before the Lord. Then afterward ye shall return and be guiltless before the Lord and before Israel, and this land shall be your possession before the Lord. So that land on the east side, you see the half tribe of Manasseh, Gad, and Reuben. All right. Verse 23. But if you will not do so, behold, ye have sinned against the Lord, and be sure your sin will find you out. Build your cities for your little ones, and folds for your sheep, and do that which hath proceeded out of your mouth. It says, and do that which proceedeth out of your mouth. Watch this. Let me go to, let's go pull one precept. I'm not going to go too far into this right now. Ecclesiastes chapter 5 and verse 4. When thou vowest a vow unto God, defer not to pay it, for he hath no pleasure in fools. Pay that which thou hast vowed. Better is it that thou shouldest not vow, than thou shouldest vow and not pay. Suffer not thy mouth to cause thy flesh to sin, neither say before the angel that it was an error. Wherefore should God be angry at thy voice, and destroy the work of thine hands. Okay, let's go back. Verse 24 again. Numbers 32 and verse 24. Build you cities for your little ones, and folds for your sheep, and do that which hath proceeded out of your mouth. So keep your vows. Keep that which you have said. All right, verse 25. And the children of Gad and the children of Reuben spake unto Moses, saying, thy servants will do as my Lord commandeth. Our little ones, our wives, our flocks, and all our cattle shall be there in the cities of Gilead. But thy servants will pass over, every man armed for war, before the Lord to battle, as my Lord saith. So concerning them, Moses commanded Eleazar the priest, and Joshua the son of Nun, and the chief of the fathers of the tribes of the children of Israel. And Moses said unto them, if the children of Gad and the children of Reuben will pass with you over Jordan, every man armed to battle before the Lord, and the land shall be subdued before you, then ye shall give them the land of Gilead for a possession. But if they will not pass over with you armed, they shall have possessions, they shall have possessions among you in the land of Canaan. And the children of Gad and the children of Reuben answered, saying, as the Lord has said unto thy servants, so will we do. We will pass over armed before the Lord into the land of Canaan, that the possession of our inheritance on this side of Jordan may be ours. And Moses gave unto them, even to the children of Gad and to the children of Reuben, and unto the half tribe of Manasseh, the son of Joseph, the kingdom of Sihon, king of the Amorites, and the kingdom of Og of Bashan, the land with cities thereof in the coast, even the cities of the country round about. Okay, so again, what are we going into? I just wanted to touch on the land of Bashan. Okay, so from there, let's go to the book of Psalms, chapter 135. Psalms, chapter 135. We're going to start at verse 10. Psalms, chapter 135. In verse 10. Who smote great kings who smote great nations and slew mighty kings? Sihon, king of the Amorites, and Og, king of Bashan, and all the kingdoms of Canaan, and gave their land for an heritage, and heritage unto Israel, his people. So who smote the land for his people? The Lord did. Thy name, O Lord, endureth forever. Thy name, O Lord, endureth forever, and thy memorial, O Lord, throughout all generations. Why throughout all generations? Because we are supposed to always be talking about the great works of the Lord and what he's done for the children of Israel. That's us. All right? The blacks, Hispanics, natives, we are the children of Israel. Let's go back. No, from there, let's go to Deuteronomy. Go to Deuteronomy 29. Deuteronomy chapter 29. We're going to read verse 7 and 8. And when ye came unto this place, Sihon, king of Heshbon, and Og, king of Bashan, came out against us unto battle, and we smote them, and we took their land, and gave it for an inheritance unto the Reubenites, and to the Gadites, and to the half tribe of Manasseh. You see how this is repeated over and over again. Let's go to the book of Nehemiah. Now, we're talking about something that happened right prior to us actually having the land. The land was not subdued yet. The land was not divided up yet. Now we're going to go from that time past the Assyrians, past the Babylonians, into the Persian Mede captivity, and Nehemiah is speaking about it as well. Let's go to the book of Nehemiah. All right, Nehemiah chapter 9. We're going to start at verse 20. All right, that's why we have to continually speak upon the great things that the Lord has done for the children of Israel. All right. Nehemiah 9, and we're going to start at verse 20. Thou gavest also thy good spirit to instruct them, and withheldest not thy manna from their mouth, and gavest them water for their thirst. Yea, 40 years didst thou sustain them in the wilderness. Listen to this again. 40 years didst thou sustain them in the wilderness. The Lord gave us everything we needed while we were in the wilderness. All right. So that's mercy. That's grace he was having on us, that even though we were serving out the punishment for our forefathers, the fathers that came up out of Egypt, right? That second generation was bearing their iniquities, but the Lord still had mercy on them. All right. Verse 21. Yea, 40 years didst thou sustain them in the wilderness, so that they lacked nothing. Their clothes waxed not old, and their feet swelled not. Moreover, thou gavest them kingdoms and nations, and didst divide them into corners. So they possessed the land of Sihon, and the land of the king of Og, and the land of the king of Heshbon, and the land of Og, king of Bashan. Their children also multipliedst thou as the stars of heaven, and broughtest them into the land, concerning which thou hadst promised to their fathers, that they should go in to possess it. So the children went in and possessed the land, and thou subduedst before them, and the inhabitants of the land, the Canaanites, and gavest them into their hands with their kings and the people of the land, that they mightest do with them as they would. And they took strong cities and a fat land. And a fat land. So you know what that Bashan is? That place, they said, this is a good land for our cattle. It's a fat land. Okay? And possessed houses full of goods, wells digged, vineyards, and olive yards. We possessed other people's labors. That's what it's going into. We possessed other men's labors. Read it again. And possess houses full of all goods, wells digged, vineyards and olive yards, and fruit trees in abundance. So they did eat, and were filled, and became fat, and delighted themselves in thy great goodness. Okay. Is that all on that? Something feels like I'm missing something. Oh, here we go. I remember that. Psalms. Let's go back to Psalms right quick. Let's go back to Psalms. How could I forget this one? Let's go back to Psalms. Chapter. Let me find it right quick. Here we go. Psalms chapter 68 and verse 15. The hill of God is as the hill of Bashan, and high hill as the hill of Bashan. Why leap ye, ye high hills? This is the hill which God desireth to dwell in. Yea, the Lord will dwell in it forever. Said the hill of God is like the hill of Bashan. All right, man. Hey, that's some good stuff right there. All right, so let's go back. Let's go back to Amos. Let's go back to Amos. Let me go back in Amos chapter 4. Amos chapter 4 and verse 1. Hear this word, ye kind of Bashan. So I wanted to deal with the Bashan. Because I just wanted to show you that land is rich and fertile land. Okay, the kind, or what? The cattle. But let's see what it's really going into. That are in the hear this word, ye kind of Bashan, that are in the mountain of Samaria, which oppress the poor, which crush the needy, which say to their masters, bring, let us drink. The Lord has sworn by his holiness that, lo, the day shall come upon you, that he will take you away with hooks, and your posterity with fish hooks. And ye shall go out at the breaches, every cow at that which is before her, and ye shall cast them into the palace, saith the Lord. Come to Bethel and transgress at Gilgal, multiply transgressions and bring your sacrifices every morning and your tithes after 3 years. Now, what was going on in Samaria, the northern kingdom? Remember, they had cast out, Jeroboam the first, the son of Nebat. Jeroboam I, son of Nebat, had cast out the Levites, right? So back up to verse 1. Hear this word, ye kind of Bashan, that are in the mountain of Samaria, which oppress the poor. Do cattle oppress the poor? No, it's not talking about cattle. Which oppress the poor, which crush the needy, which say to their masters, bring, let us drink. Those are the people that were oppressing the poor. All right, the leaders that were oppressing the poor. We read that. I'll just touch it real quick. We ain't gonna go deep into it. Let's jump back over to chapter 2. All right, jump back over to chapter 2 and 6. Thus saith the Lord, for 3 transgressions of Israel, and for 4 I will not turn away the punishment thereof, because they sold the righteous for silver and the poor for a pair of shoes. All right, so they were oppressing the poor. How else did they oppress the poor? Amos 8:5. All right, one of the new moon scriptures. But watch this. Amos chapter 8 verse 5, saying, when will the new moon be gone, that we may sell corn, and the Sabbath, that we may set forth wheat, making the ephah small and the shekel great, and falsifying the balances by deceit. We were oppressing or I would say they were oppressing the people, all right, by um, illegal means. When I say illegal means, contrary to the law. The Lord talks about just balances, just weights. So they were being shiesty. Okay? All right. Which say to their masters, bring, let us drink. All right? Because they were pouring out drink offerings, right? And making sacrifices to other gods. All right? So, let's get Hosea chapter 13. Watch this. Watch this. Hosea chapter 13. I'm going to read verse 1 and 2. Ephraim feedeth on the wind, and followeth after the east wind. He daily increaseth lies and desolation, and they do make a covenant with the Assyrians. And oil is carried into Egypt. The Lord also has a controversy with Judah, and will punish Jacob according to his ways. I just read chapter 12. I'm tripping. 13. When Ephraim, 13:1, when Ephraim spake trembling, he exalted himself in Israel. But when he offended in Baal, he died. Okay, Baal is what? The heifer, all right? The calf, the cattle, all right? That we worship. Okay? And now they sin more and more, and have made them molten images of their silver, and idols according to their own understanding. Excuse me. All of it the work of the craftsmen. They say of them, let the men that sacrifice kiss the calves. All right. So what is that going into? Idol worship, sacrificing. Let me get Baal. All right. Let me get Tobit. Tobit chapter 1 verse 1. Tobit chapter 1 verse 1. The book of the words of Tobit, the son of Tobiel, the son of Amiel, the son of Adiel, the son of Gabiel, of the seed of Asiel, of the tribe of Naphtali, who in the time of Manasseh, king of the Assyrians, was led captive out of Thisbe, which is on the right hand of that city, which is called properly Naphtali in Galilee, above Asher. I want to get, let me see. I'll just read down. I, Tobit, walked all the days of my life in the way of truth and justice, and did many alms deeds to my brethren and my nation, who came with me to Nineveh, into the land of the Assyrians. And when I was in mine own country, in the land of Israel, being but young, all the tribe of Naphtali, my father, fell from the house of Jerusalem, which was chosen out of all the tribes of Israel, that all the tribes should sacrifice there, where the temple of the habitation of the Most High was consecrated and built for all ages. Now the tribes, which together revolted, and the house of my father Naphtali sacrificed unto the heifer Baal. That's the part I wanted. Sacrifice unto the heifer Baal. All right. So let's go back. All right. Let's go back. All right. Amos chapter 4 verse 2 again. The Lord has sworn by his holiness that, lo, the days come upon you that he shall take you away with hooks, and your posterity with fish hooks. What is he going into? When the Assyrians would come upon us. Now, I just want to show you a couple of things. The Assyrians were very cruel. I see something else I just missed. I got to go back. And touch. The Assyrians were very cruel people. Let's read something. Let me read something to you right here. All right. Bear with me just a second. All right, here we go. All right. It says 10 horrors of being invaded by the Assyrian army. Okay. It says nearly 3,000 years ago, a nation few remember today swept through the Middle East. Okay, it wasn't called the Middle East at that time. They laid cities to waste, tortured the survivors, and spread terror everywhere they went. This was Assyria, the first nation to make its military might its central policy, and the first nation to torment its enemies with psychological warfare. Life behind a city's walls when the Assyrian army drew close was terrifying. Assyria made sure of it. They pioneered the use of terror as a weapon and made the lives of their enemies a living horror. All right. Number 10, an enemy that lived at war. We're not going to, for time's sake, read all of these. 9, psychological warfare. I'm going to read this one. Psychological warfare. It says, the Assyrians created tablets that showed them torturing their enemies to let the next city know what was coming. These showed them skinning their victims alive, blinding them, impaling them on stakes. One Assyrian king named Ashurnasirpal II has left a whole series of these tablets behind, and the descriptions are positively terrifying. I flayed many right through my land and draped their skins over the walls. He boasted in one. I burned their adolescent boys and girls. A pillar of heads I erected in front of the city. By the time their armies reached your walls, these stories would have spread. Every person watching their chariots approach would know that compared to the fate the Assyrian army brought, death would be a relief. Ooh, okay. Number 8, a chance to surrender. Let me read that. Before the battle began, people would often be given a chance to surrender. An envoy would ride up to the city walls, knowing the fear of the people that already felt, and would promise them that if they bowed down and paid tribute to Assyria, they would be allowed to live. Make peace with me and come out to me, the envoy called out. Then each of you will eat fruit from your own vine and fig tree and drink from your own cistern. Those who did not, he warned, will have to eat their own excrement and drink their own urine. Now, this is stated in Isaiah. We'll read that later on. Okay, probably not today, but Lord spare our lives. We'll get there. Many countries surrendered. Others went further. The king of Urartu, upon hearing the Assyrian army approach, stabbed himself in the chest rather than face them. And some sent tributes to Assyria before they ever looked their way, surrendering before they even approached to keep them away. All right, number 7, advanced sieged weapons. Okay, they had advanced siege weapons. Number 6, the complete obliteration of cities. Number 5, let's read this one. The torture of the survivors. One Assyrian king recorded sparing some of the people he invaded, but only after they shamelessly humbled themselves before him. The nobles and the elders of the city, they came out to me to save their lives, he declared. They seized my feet and said, if it please you, kill. If it please you, spare. If it please you, do what you will. More often than not, though, the surviving men will be put through hell they used to psychologically terrify the world. That meant being skinned alive, having noses and ears chopped off, and whatever torments they could imagine. Sometimes they got creative. One king, Esarhaddon, made noble men wear necklaces with their kings' heads on them. He wrote, I hung the heads of the kings upon the shoulders of their nobles, and with singing and music I paraded. And this is, this was some wicked stuff here. Number 4, lives of slavery. And you can see, let me see if I can enlarge this. Okay. And you can see some of those murals, right? They had up. Let's go down to number 3. The resettlement policy. Let's read this. The resettlement policy. All of Assyria was subject to their resettlement policy, which uprooted whole families and moved them across the country. It was one of the ideas that made Assyria so strong. Experts from conquered countries would be sent into the heart of the nation, where they would be put to work building palaces, temples, and wonders. These people were usually lucky enough to bring their families. The dangerous men who fought against Assyria were sometimes given a chance to redeem themselves if the king was merciful. They would be sent to a ruined kingdom on the outskirts of the nation that would be forced to rebuild. The rest would be scattered about the country. The people of a conquered nation would be spread about the kingdom, living alongside of people from foreign lands instead of their own countrymen, to keep them packing together and staging a revolt. So they did this to keep us from staging revolts. A brutal code of law. Watch this. Many times in Assyria, many crimes in Assyria were punished by dismemberment or death. If you kissed another man's wife, they would cut off your lower lip with an axe. If a man was caught with another man, the law said, they shall turn him into a eunuch. Adultery was punishable by death. Well, adultery in God's laws before Christ was punishable by death as well. Some crimes were dealt with in savage ways. Men had the right to murder adulterous wives. Listen to this again. Men had the right to murder adulterous wives. That's still the case in some countries to this very day. Murderers were handed over to the victims' families, who were free to do with them as they willed. Hey, if that was still the case today, I bet people would think twice before they committed murder. The people seem to have been a bit squeamish about enticing or enacting these laws, but they made sure they did it. In the case of very crime for which there is penalty of cutting off of ear or nose, the law said, as it is written, so shall it be carried out. All right. And number 1, post-traumatic stress. Life under the threat of Assyrian was horrifying for the Assyrians as well as their victims. The men of Assyria army reported experiences that modern psychologists say show widespread symptoms of post-traumatic stress. They describe hearing and seeing ghosts and talking to them. Who would be the ghost of the people they killed in battle, says Professor James Hacker Hughes. That's exactly the experience of modern-day soldiers who have been involved in close hand-to-hand combat. The Assyrians were so brutal that their military campaigns even put themselves through hell. The horrors and the guilt of murdering and torturing innocent people wreaked havoc on their psyches. When their year at war ended, they were allowed to return home to their families. They lived lives haunted by ghosts of the people they inflicted all these torments upon. All right, so that is some of the horror that came upon them. Now, let me get this. Is that what I wanted? Hold on a second. The black obelisk. Yeah, that's what I wanted. All right, so you see this. It says, the black obelisk of Shalmaneser III, 9th century BC, from Nimrud in modern-day Nineveh, Governorate, Iraq. This is in the British Museum in London. Let me go back. Okay. We'll read a little bit of this. The Black Obelisk of Shalmaneser III is a black limestone Neo-Assyrian sculpture with many scenes in bas-relief and inscriptions. It comes from Nimrud in northern Iraq and commemorates the deeds of King Shalmaneser III. All right. All right. So let's go back out of there. Okay. Amos chapter 4. We're going to start at verse 2 again and read down. The Lord has sworn by his holiness that, lo, the days shall come upon you, that he will take you away with hooks, and your posterity with flesh hooks. I think I have one more picture. Let me see. Yeah, let me see. Let me flip this over. All right, this is a picture. He's got hooks in the nose and hooks in the jaw. All right. Okay. All right, Amos 4 and 2. The Lord has sworn by his holiness that, lo, the days shall come upon you, that he will take you away with hooks, and your posterity with flesh hooks. And you shall go out at the breaches, every cow, that which is before her, and ye shall cast them into the palace, saith the Lord. Come to Bethel, and transgress. At Gilgal, multiply transgressions. Bring your sacrifices every morning, and your tithes after 3 years. Because what was going on? We were sacrificing, okay, the northern kingdom. I say the northern kingdom was sacrificing where? In Bethel and in Dan. Okay? In Bethel and in Dan. All right? So, let me get... do I want to touch that? Do I want to touch that? All right, let me get let me see. Let me pull up one of the pictures I got again. Let me pull up one of the pictures. All right, here we go. Let me get this one. All right. So now, when you look at this map, you'll see Ephraim. All right, you can see Ephraim right below Ephraim. If you look at the M on Ephraim and you go straight down, you'll see Bethel. All right, you see Bethel. Now, you see the land of Dan right here? When it says from Dan to Bethel, all right, because that's where matter of fact, let me just get it right quick. 1 Kings 12. I'm just gonna touch on it real quick. 1 Kings 12, 28 and 29. This is King Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, Jeroboam 1. Whereupon the king took counsel and made 2 calves of gold, and said unto them, it is too much for you to go up to Jerusalem. Behold thy gods, O Israel, which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. And he set one And he set the one in Bethel, and put the other put he in Dan. So he put one in Bethel and the other in Dan. So now as you look at the picture, all right, the map, you have Bethel, right below Ephraim. It's in between Ephraim and Benjamin. All right. Hey, y'all give me a thumbs up or a Y if you can see it. I just want to make sure y'all can see the map clearly. Let me give you a sec. Give me a thumbs up or a Y if you can see where Bethel is on the map. Yeah, I got to keep it. Okay, all praises, all praises. You can see that. Now, you see Dan, right? If you go to the left or to the west towards the Mediterranean Sea or the Great Sea, you see Dan, right? So that was the land of Dan. But now let's go to the north. Let's go to the north. And you see at the very top, all right, up by Syria, is in East Manasseh. East Manasseh, you see Dan. Give me another Y or thumbs up. You see that at the very top part of Northern Kingdom. This is where Asher and Naphtali and Dan, Zebulun and Issachar, that would be closer for them to get to. All right. All right. So, let's go to the book of Joshua, chapter 19. Let's go to the book of Joshua, chapter 19 and verse 40. All right, so now this is the allotments of land, the division of land, when Joshua was dividing up the land. All right, Joshua chapter 19, verse 40. And the seventh lot came out for the tribe of the children of Dan, according to their families. And the coast of their inheritance was Zorah, and Eshtaol, and Urshemesh. All right, I'm going to jump down to verse 47. I'm not going to read all of these. Verse 47. And the coast of the children of Dan went out too little for them. Therefore, the children of Dan went up to fight against Leshem. So when you see that in the far north, where it says Dan, that was once called Leshem. Okay? And took it and smote it with the edge of the sword, and possessed it, and dwelt therein, and called Leshem Dan after the name of their father. This is the inheritance of the tribe of the children of Dan according to their families, these cities with their villages. Now, from there, let's go to the book of Judges. Let's go to the book of Judges, chapter 1. I'm going to jump around just a little bit just so we can get the point. All right, Judges, chapter 1. Now, I'm going to jump around. I'm going to read just the very first part of each of these verses. Verse 19. And the Lord was with Judah, and he drave out the inhabitants of the mountain, but he could not drive out the inhabitants of the valley because of the chariots of iron. And they gave Hebron unto Caleb, as Moses said, and he expelled thence the 3 sons of Anak. And the children of Benjamin did not drive out the inhabitants of the Jebusites. Let me jump down. Verse 22. And the house of Joseph, they also went up against Bethel, and the Lord was with them. And the house of Joseph sent to describe Bethel. Now the name of the city before was Luz. All right, let's jump down to verse 27. Neither did Manasseh drive out the inhabitants of Bethshean. Verse 29. Neither did Ephraim drive out the Canaanites. Verse 30. Neither did Zebulun drive out the inhabitants of Kitron. Verse 31. Neither did Asher drive out the inhabitants of Akko. Verse 32. But the Asherites dwelt among the Canaanites, the inhabitants of the land, for they did not drive them out. Verse 33. Neither did Naphtali drive out the inhabitants of Beshemeth. Verse 34. And the Amorites forced the children of Dan into the mountain, for they would not suffer them to come down to the valley. But the Amorites would dwell in Heres and Aijalon. Now hold on. Let's go back to the map so you can see this. I'm going to read it again. Verse 35. But the Amorites would dwell in Mount Heres, in Aijalon, and in Shaalbim. Yet the hand of the house of Joseph prevailed, so that they became tributaries. So Joseph came and helped. Now look, if you look right on the border of Ephraim and Dan, you see Shaalbim, and a little bit to the east of that, you see Aijalon. Let me know. Give me a Y or a thumbs up if you can see that. All right, on the border, so it'll be the southern border of Ephraim, right there with Dan. Okay, you see Gezer, and then to the right of that, you see Shaalbim. And then right beneath that, to the right, you see Aijalon. Okay, all praises. All praises. So, this is the land that was given them. But, let's jump back to Joshua 19 again. Joshua 19:47. But the coast of the children of Dan went out too little for them. Therefore, the children of Dan went up to fight against Lashem and took it. So, then they moved up, all right, and came up here and took this land and called it Dan. So now, when we read about how Jeroboam had set, let me get that again, First Kings, so we can see it while I'm reading it. All right, you got the visual while I'm reading it. 1 Kings 12 and 29 again. And he set the one in Bethel. All right, so we see the one in Bethel down here in the land of Dan, right between Ephraim and Benjamin. Right, he set the one in Bethel, and the other he put in Dan. So he's talking about here in the far north. All right. All praise to the Most High. Let's go back. Oh, here we go. Let me read this one too. Deuteronomy chapter 33 and verse 22. And of Dan he said, Dan is a lion's whelp. He shall leap from Bashan. He shall leap from Bashan. That area, this area up here. All right, let me get another one right quick. All right. I think I had this one up the last class. Let's get. All right. Okay. Here we go. right. You see that? You see Bashan? Okay. The large fertile area. Remember, we took, let's read it again. Let's go to Deuteronomy 3. I'll read it in Deuteronomy 3. We took these lands from two of the kings. Here we go. This will help. All right. You see Edrei, right? Under Ashtaroth. All right. Watch this. Deuteronomy 3:1. Then we turned and went up the way to Bashan. And Og, the king of Bashan, came out against us, he and all his people, to battle at Edrei. And the Lord said unto me, fear him not, for I will deliver him and all his people and his land into thy hand. And thou shalt do unto him as thou didst unto Sihon, king of the Amorites, which dwell at Heshbon. So the Lord our God delivered him into our hands, Og also, the king of Bashan, and all his people, and we smote him until none was left to him remaining. And we took all his cities. At that time, there was not a city which we took not from them. 80 cities, that's 60 cities, all the region of Argob, the kingdom of Og in Bashan. So, they took all of that. So, as we go back now, let me see, where did I have, now you see that map. Let me switch back over. You see Dan? You see that? Let me read it again. Deuteronomy 33. Hope y'all connecting the dots. Deuteronomy 33, verse 22. And Dan, he said, Dan is a lion's whelp. He shall leap from Bashan, because that's where he was dwelling. All right? All right. Let's go back to Amos. All right. Amos chapter 4. All right. Let's try to get a little reading done, because I wanted to get to some other things. We ain't got a lot of time. Amos chapter 4, verse 4. Come to Bethel and transgress. At Gilgal, multiply transgressions. Bring your sacrifices every morning and your tithes after 3 years. And offer a sacrifice of thanksgiving with leaven, and proclaim and publish the free offerings. For this liketh you, O children of Israel, saith the Lord God. I also have given you cleanness of teeth in all your cities, and want of bread in all your places. Yet ye have not turned unto me, saith the Lord. And also I have withholden rain from you, when there were yet 3 months to harvest. And I caused it to rain upon one city, and caused it not to rain upon another city. One piece was rained upon, and the piece whereupon it rained not withered. Okay? So now, why was that happening? Why was that happening? All right, let's get it. Deuteronomy 11. Again, I'm just going to touch it right quick. Deuteronomy 11. We've gone through this. And 13, and it shall come to pass, if ye shall hearken diligently unto my commandments, which I command you this day, to love the Lord your God, and to serve him with all your heart and with all your soul, that I will give you the rain of your land in his due season, the first and the latter rain, that thou mayest gather in thy corn and thy wine and thine oil. And I will send grass in the fields for thy cattle. So now listen, this place was a fertile place for cattle. So it would behoove us to what? Be steadfast in obeying the commandments of the Lord. All right? Watch this. Verse 15 again. And I will send grass in thy fields for thy cattle, that thou mayest eat and be full. Because if your cattle can eat and get fat, then you can eat. If there's no grass, your cattle going to be lean. There ain't going to be nothing but skin and bones. Ain't nothing for you to eat. All right, that's the famine. Verse 16, take heed to yourselves, that your heart be not deceived, and ye turn aside and serve other gods and worship them. And then the Lord's wrath be kindled against you. And he shut up heaven, that there be no rain, and that the land yield not her fruit, lest ye perish quickly from off the good land that which the Lord giveth you. Okay? Now, let's get an example of that. We're going to move forward past this time that we're reading about in Amos. We're going to go to Jeremiah in the Babylonian captivity. We read this all the time. Jeremiah 14. Jeremiah 14, but we're going to read down a little bit. Jeremiah chapter 14. And verse 1. The word of the Lord that came to Jeremiah concerning the dearth. Okay, famine. Judah mourneth, and the gates thereof languish. They are black unto the ground, and the cry of Jerusalem is gone up. And their nobles have sent their little ones to the waters. They came to the pits and found no water. They returned with their vessels empty. They were ashamed and confounded and covered their heads, because the ground is chapped, for there was no rain in the earth. The plowmen were ashamed. They covered their heads. Let me see if I can find a pic right quick. Because when it says the ground was chapped, that's like if you've ever seen extreme drought. Let me see if I can find one real quick. If you've ever seen extreme drought, then yeah, here we go. Good. Pull one up. Let's see if we can get a good there we go. Watch this. I'm gonna read it again. You see that? Let's read it again. Verse 4, Jeremiah 14 and 4. Because the ground is chapped, for there was no rain in the earth. The plowmen were ashamed. They covered their heads. Yea, the hind also calved in the field and forsook it, because there was no grass. And the wild asses did stand in high places, and they snuffed up the wind like dragons. Their eyes did fail, because there was no grass. O Lord, though our iniquities testify against us, do thou it for thy name's sake. For our backslidings are many. We have sinned against thee. You see what they're saying? See what we were saying then? We have sinned against thee. That's why we're in the condition that we were in at that time. All right. Let's jump over to 1 Kings. Get another example. 1 Kings 17 and 1. And Elijah the Tishbite, who was of the inhabitants of Gilead, said unto Ahab, as the Lord God liveth, the Lord God of Israel liveth, before whom I stand, there shall not be dew nor rain these years, but according to my word. Okay. Verse 7. And it came to pass after a while that the brook dried up, because there had been no rain in the land. That was verse 7. All right. Now, watch this. Let's get a future prophecy. Let's get a future prophecy. All right? Because some people say the laws are done away with. We ain't gonna have to keep no laws. All right, let's get a future prophecy. Zechariah. Here we go. Zechariah chapter 14 and verse 16. Zechariah chapter 14 and verse 16. And it shall come to pass that every one that is left of all the nations which came against Jerusalem shall even go up from year to year to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, and to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. Are all the nations doing that today? No. We talking about what? We talking about the kingdom. And it shall come to pass. This is a future prophecy. Verse 17. And it shall be that whoso will not come up of all the families of the earth unto Jerusalem to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, even upon them shall be no rain. That's why we're showing you what happens when there's no rain. Verse 18. And if the family of Egypt go not up, and come not, that have no rain, there shall be the plague. I'm sorry, let me read it again. Verse 18. And if the family of Egypt go not up, and come not, that have no rain, there shall be the plague wherewith the Lord will smite the heathen. That's showing you that the Egyptians are what? Heathens. All right. That come not up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. This shall be the punishment of Egypt, and the punishment of all nations that come not up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. Okay. So that's going to happen in the kingdom. Everybody going to be keeping the Lord's commandments. All right. Y'all to say that we don't have to keep the Lord's commandments, that the laws are done away with. Everybody going to be keeping the commandments. All right. We're going to make sure of that thing. All right. Let's go back to Amos. Let's go back to Amos. Sheesh. All right. I didn't know I was going to get. I was going to go off into those precepts. All right. Amos chapter 4 and verse. Where was I? All right. Verse 9. Oh, verse 8. I'm sorry. So 2 or 3 cities wandered unto one city to drink water, but they were not satisfied. Yet have ye not returned unto me, saith the Lord. I have smitten you with blasting and mildew, and your gardens and your vineyards and your fig trees and your olive trees increased. The palmer worm devoured them, yet have ye not returned unto me, saith the Lord. All right, so we've gone over this chapter before, so I'm gonna jump ahead. All right, we're gonna go back to Kings. We're gonna go to 2 Kings chapter 15. Now, remember when we read Amos? Let me get Amos 1 and 1 first before I jump over there. The words of Amos, who was among the herdmen of Tekoa, which he saw concerning Israel in the days of Uzziah, king of Judah, and Jeroboam, the son of Joash, king of Israel, 2 years before the earthquake. All right, so now, let's go to 2 Kings. Let's go to 2 Kings 15. And I'm going to start at verse 7. Is that where I want to start at? What do I have in my note? Yeah, 2 Kings chapter 15 and verse 7. All right. So Azariah slept with his fathers. So they buried him with his fathers in the city of David. And Jotham his son reigned in his stead. Now it's going to go back over history while Azariah, which is also Uzziah. We've read that. You go to 2 Chronicles. Let me just do it right quick. For those of you that may have missed it before, this is the same person. Same person. 2 Chronicles. I'm in 1 Chronicles. Bear with me. 2 Chronicles 26 and 1. Then all the people of Judah took Uzziah, who was 16 years old, and made him king in the room of his father Amaziah. So in Chronicles, he's called Uzziah. In Kings, he's called Azariah. It's the same person. All right? All right, 2 Kings 15 and verse 8. And in the 38th year of Azariah, king of Judah, did Zechariah, the son of Jeroboam, reign over Israel in Samaria 6 months. All right, so now, Zechariah was Jeroboam's son. Remember, Jeroboam reigned for 41 years. All right, Jeroboam reigned for 41 years. And Israel, Northern Kingdom, they saw financial success under Jeroboam. All right. Jeroboam fought wars. He took back the lands that were taken. All right, verse 9. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, as his fathers had done. He departed not from the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, who made Israel to sin. Those are the calves. All right, that's what we just went over. And Shallum, the son of Jabesh, conspired against him and smote him before the people and slew him and reigned in his stead. And the rest of the acts of Zechariah, behold, they are written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Israel. This was the word of the Lord, which he spake against Jehu, saying, Thy sons shall sit on the throne of Israel unto the 4th generation. And so it came to pass. Shallum, the son of Jabesh, began to reign in the 39th year of Uzziah, king of Judah. And he reigned a full month in Samaria. So, imagine, Uzziah saw the reign of Jeroboam. Okay, I think he came in, I think Jeroboam was, we touched on it last class, like 15 years when Uzziah came to his throne. So he saw the reign of Jeroboam. Now he's seen Jeroboam's son reign 8 months, get killed. Now Shallum reigns a month, right? Here we go. Verse 13 again. Shallum, the son of Jabesh, began to reign, and he reigned in the 9 and 30th year of Uzziah, king of Judah, and he reigned a full month in Samaria. For Menahem, the son of Gadi, went up from Tirzah and came to Samaria and smote Shallum, the son of Jabesh, in Samaria, and slew him and reigned in his stead. So you got to imagine, now you seeing all of this wickedness, right? You got kings slaying kings, right? And what does the scriptures say? What does the scriptures say concerning leaders? Let's get that in Sirach 10. Sirach 10 and 1. A wise judge will instruct his people, and the government of a prudent man is well ordered. As the judge of the people is himself, so are his officers. In what manner of man the ruler of the city is, so are they that dwell therein. An unwise king destroyeth his people, but through prudence of them which are in authority, the city shall be inhabited. So it says an unwise king shall destroy his people. So if there's wickedness on the king level or the president level or the prime minister level, what do you think is going to happen with the people? They're going to be wicked as hell too. Okay? Let's read on. Verse 15. And the rest of the acts of Shallum and his conspiracy which he had made, behold, they are written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Israel. Then Menahem smote Tipsah and all that were therein. Tipsah is a city. It said he smote Tipsah and all that were therein, because they opened not to him. Therefore he smote it, and all the women therein, or therein that were with child, he ripped up. He did the same thing Hazael, the Syrian king, did. That's why the scriptures say we worse than the damn heathen. He did worse against his own people, right? Hazael, remember we read that before where, let me see if I can find it right quick, where Elisha wept because he understood how evil Hazael was going to be on the people, right? Now you know what? I'm pressed for time. Let me keep going. All right, verse 17. In the 39th year of Azariah, king of Judah, began Menahem, the son of Gadi, to reign over Israel, and reigned 10 years in Samaria, and did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord. He departed not all his days from the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, who made Israel to sin. And Pul, the king of Assyria, came against the land, and Menahem gave Pul 1,000 talents of silver, that his hand might be with him to confirm the kingdom in his hand. So now the Lord is starting to send our enemies against us, right? So it said he gave Pul 1,000 talents of silver, that his hand might be with him to confirm the kingdom in his hand. So he paid him off. Okay? Verse 20. And Menahem exacted money of Israel, even of all the mighty men of wealth, each man 50 shekels of silver, to give to the king of Assyria. So he taxed them. He taxed the men to pay off Pul, Tiglath-Pileser. He taxed the wealthy men in Israel, right? 50 shekels to give to the king of Assyria. So the king of Assyria turned back and stayed not in the land. Now it says the wealthy men had to pay each 50 shekels. Now, I'm going to remind you again, remember what was going on in the land that we read in Amos. They were shiesty. They was fleecing each other. Let me just get it one more time. I know y'all got, I'm old school. Yep, y'all probably got some more. Hey, give me some up-to-date words that y'all be using. Type them in the chat. Remember, Amos 8:6. Amos 8:5. Talking about the wealthy men, because this is what they was doing. Amos 8:5 again. When will the new moon be gone? Wait a minute, hold on. Verse 4. Hear this, O ye that swallow up the needy, even to make the poor of the land fail, saying, when will the new moon be gone, that we may sell corn, the Sabbath, that we may set forth wheat, making the ephah small and the shekel great, and falsifying the balances by deceit, that we may buy the poor for silver and the needy for a pair of shoes, yea, and sell the refuse of the wheat. So they was being wicked as hell. So what the Lord do? When we sin, what does the Lord do? He brings an enemy upon us. Watch this. Let me get Proverbs chapter 13. Proverbs chapter 13. All right. You think, hey, and you know what? God's judgments is like a ring. We read that in 2 Ezra 5:42. If these pastors that are shaking down the congregation think that the Lord ain't going to visit them, maybe we'll go into that a little bit more in the next class, maybe. But if they think that the Lord ain't going to visit them, they are sadly mistaken. All right? It's all through the scriptures. Watch this. Proverbs 13:11. Wealth gotten by vanity shall diminish, but he that is gathered by labor shall increase. So what happened? The king of Assyria came into the land. The king of Israel had to gather up money. He started taking money from the wealthy. Hey, what was that Biden said in the debate? That the rich should pay 24 or 25% taxes. That's what he was saying. Trump looked at him like, man, you crazy. All right, from there, let's go to Sirach chapter 5 and verse 8. Sirach chapter 5 and verse 8. Set not thine heart upon goods unjustly gotten. That's the part I wanted. Set not thine heart upon goods unjustly gotten, for they shall not profit thee in the day of calamity. Set not thine heart on goods unjustly gotten. Sirach chapter 27, verse 2. This goes into Amos 8 and 5. Sirach 27 and verse, I'm going to start at 1. Many have sinned for a small matter, and he that seeketh for abundance will turn his eyes away. As a nail sticketh fast between the joinings of the stones, so doth sin stick close between buying and selling. Remember what they were doing, falsifying the balances. All right. Sirach chapter 10. Verse 8. Because of unrighteous dealings, again, going back to Amos 8 and 5, Amos 8 and 6, Amos chapter 2. Because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches gotten by deceit, the kingdom is translated from one people to another. And we are getting into that, seeing how the kingdom was going to be translated from the hand of Israel into the hand of the Assyrians. Okay? God was going to use the Assyrians to bring down Ephraim. But it's all prophecy. All right? It was written way back in Deuteronomy. All right. I'm going to have to wrap it up right there. Right there. We didn't get through as much as I wanted to, but Lord spare our lives, will be back to continue on. So, you've been tuned in to History in the AM with Captain Kimmy Well, Orlando Camp. Stay tuned for Daily Bread. Daily Bread will be coming up shortly, all right? Hey, y'all continue to pray. Pray for Israel. Pray for our leadership, our bishops and deacons, captains, officers. Y'all pray for the sick, all right? Y'all pray for those of the saints that are in the path of the hurricane and those that have already been hit. All right, make sure you get your 3 prayers a day according to Psalms 55:17. With that, I'm going to say shalom, Israel. Most high in Christ bless you.